Good evening and welcome to the Coon Rapids City Council meeting for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. I would like to invite the scouts from Troop 524 up front to lead us in the pledge, and then if you could all rise and join us for the pledge. Come on up, gentlemen. You ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, hang on there, guys. Oh, you can kind of turn and face here, yeah. Put your face out here. Line up single, there we go. Move, make a little room. All right, well, thanks for starting us out, guys. I'm going to hand the mic along and you can introduce yourselves. And at some point, somebody could tell us why you're here, if that works.
Sam.
My name is Michael.
I'm Vincent.
My name is Robbie.
My name is Alexander.
My name is Aiden.
My name is Simon.
And my name is Sam. We are Troop 524 from Epiphany, and we are doing the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, and we are here to watch and learn how this all goes down.
Nice job, Sam. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. They've actually been here for an hour. So. All right, please call roll.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Here.
Councilmember Rayrauer. Councilmember Novak.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here.
One absent, Rayrauer.
Thank you. Next is let's adopt this evening's agenda.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Novak.
move to adopt the agenda. Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac.
I'd like to make one change to the agenda. I'd like to move agenda item number 2 from the consent agenda over to new business, please.
Okay, so let's just say the first motion died without a second,
Okay.
and we'll start over. So we'd like to adopt the agenda. So why don't you just say that was a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac.
I'd like to adopt the agenda with one change, and that is to move item number 2 from the consent agenda and place it under new business.
And I'll second that.
Very good. Motion by Griscoviac and a second by Novak to adopt the agenda, but moving item 2 from the consent agenda down under new business. So we'll make that item 7A. Does that sound reasonable? Mm-hmm. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. Next is the approval of the minutes from the July 18th meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Griscoviac. Is there any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And those minutes are approved. Then we have 3 items on our consent agenda. The first one is item 3 on tonight's agenda, and that is in planning case 2211, approve a site plan extension for Tronson Apartments, 1354 121st Avenue Northwest, from Palmer Architects. The property is located at 1354 121st Avenue and is zoned moderate density residential. This has been a completely approved plan, but the applicant is requesting a 1-year extension due to the prolonged processing time for wetland impact approvals. Since site plan approval, the applicant has addressed condition 8, which is they needed to add a children's play area to be provided on site. where am I at? And they've provided, they've provided that children's play area, okay. The other conditions are in process and will be addressed by staff before building permits are approved. The current plans are consistent with the current zoning standards, and the applicant is anticipating its construction to start in the fall of 2023, although this will give them an extension out until 2024, correct? 1 year. All right. So we're looking in planning case 2211, the city council will approve a 1-year extension of the site plan approval to July 21st, 2024. Item 2 on our consent agenda, which is item 4, is in planning case 22-13, approve a site plan extension for Shopoff Industrial Building 8840 and through 80 Evergreen Boulevard, Shopoff Realty Investments. The applicant is requesting a 1-year extension. The extension is needed as the applicant delayed the project due to changes in the debt market and financing options. They are currently in the process of selling the building to a new buyer who will move forward with the project as approved. The conditions of approval are still in progress and will be addressed by staff before building permits are approved, and the current plans are consistent with the current zoning standards. They are anticipating construction to start in fall of 2023. So in planning case 22-13, the city council would approve a 1-year extension of the site plan approval to July 21st, 2024. And then the final item on our consent agenda, which is item 5 on this evening's agenda, is to approve nominations to the Coon Creek Watershed District Board of Managers. Anoka County has informed the city that a manager serving on the Coon Creek Watershed District Board of Managers with a term ending May 27th of 2026 has resigned from his position. Staff has reached out to the candidates that were put before council for consideration back in March of 2023, and they are all interested in being considered. So we have got 5 candidates that include Kirsten Stack, Scott Storick, Roger Johnson, Aaron Lind, and Lonnie Lincoln. All candidates are Coon Rapids residents interested in serving on this board, and we have a summary of the candidates in our packet. So the Anoka County Board of Commissioners is the entity responsible for the appointment of these positions. The city council may make recommendations, and that's what we're doing here. The city council is nominating the 5 stated candidates to the Anoka County Board for consideration of appointment to the Coon Creek Watershed District Board of Managers. And that is our consent agenda. Councilmember Geisler.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Armstrong. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Next is item 6, and that's to consider construction contract for City Hall fencing, project 23-61. Mr. Himmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. As the memo outlines, we went out for bid to 3 companies. We received 2 bids back. This is a scope of services that was developed with operations staff, facility staff, and the police department. Primarily an 8-foot-tall vinyl chain link fence around a majority of the City Hall campus, primarily encompassing the back area that would have more of a ornamental steel mechanical gate. Aside from the fence project itself, we would have to add in some low voltage as well as some electrical for the operation of that gate. We would be within the budget that was approved as part of the facilities construction fund this year. We would recommend award to Century Fence in the amount of $125,600. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Mr. Himmer, the ornamental steel section of fencing, is that a non-scalable then? Is that going to be in the areas where you've got access to the fence? I assume the chain link fencing will be mostly in the woods where people wouldn't be able to get to it anyway?
That's correct. Mr. Mayor, the steel fencing itself, that component is primarily just the access across the maintenance road, what you can visibly see from Robinson Drive. The remainder all the way around the site is the vinyl chain link fence.
Okay. So, looking at the aerial, so there's still sections of it that will just be the basically the climbable fence then, so that's not going to really help us if we have an event. If we're looking
Right.
for security for an event, we would still need non-scalable around the outside of that then.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. What this does is secures a large portion of the site. That non-scalable stuff would go outside of that and supplement what this is.
And is the non-scalable a lot more money, or why didn't we consider that in the areas where there is access to it?
It's a considerable amount of money. I know there was a joint powers consortium with, not installing fence, but what most facilities are doing is putting in their own type of fencing to just cover the areas that they want secure for most of the time, and then that non-scalable becomes kind of, as I said, supplemental outside of that on a larger scale. So it is much more expensive to do. The design of this fence does have, things that would discourage people from climbing it, but it certainly wouldn't stop people that really wanted to climb it.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious, because Columbia Heights, kind of in anticipation of any event, they installed non-scalable fence alongside of the police station, where then you would just have to kind of cap it with the temporary fence. And it's a real attractive fence. It's black. It was nice looking, and I was just kind of curious why we weren't considering that is in the areas where there is access.
There was probably several dozen iterations of this to arrive at what's the best thing we would want on a smaller scale that we could add to under a larger event, that we could secure a larger area.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Novak and then Councilmember Griscoviac.
Mr. Hammer, what are we looking at for the cost of maintenance on this on an annual basis? Has that been calculated?
We're not looking at a maintenance cost on that because it's not a year-to-year maintenance. The maintenance I'm looking at is how do we mow around it, how do we plow snow without damaging it, those sort of things. But replacement is something that would be inevitable, probably on the magnitude of every 15-plus years.
Okay.
Councilmember Griscoviac?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Hamer, I kind of had the same questions on this because we talked about this in work session. We talked about it, I think, a little bit at our retreat because, joint law enforcement was thinking about having portable fencing that would be available to any municipality that would need it to like go around the front of the building or wherever else if we had a major event that needed that type of security. My thought was we were going to section off sections in the back so then we could use that fencing to keep the rest of it secure. But this doesn't sound like a security fence. It's more just like a perimeter fence. So, yeah, this isn't the thought that I had for the fencing.
It's a discouraging fence.
It is.
Yeah, you would be discouraged from
Well,
climbing it, but
more discouraging than nothing, right? But
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Carlson?
Yeah, I think it would be real difficult to come up with something that no one could scale, but it certainly, with some of these heights, would certainly slow things down. So if we have officers, if we have an incident and officers are in the back, it certainly would make it so that we couldn't just be overrun at the back of the building. And it would also reduce the amount of area where we'd have to cover if we asked for some fencing to be brought in. And I think one of the concerns was if we have a major event, we might have to cover a couple areas. There might be another agency that needs some help, or another city that needs some help, and so it's certainly not as good as what was being proposed through JLEC, but it certainly isn't bad, and it's really something that is I think long overdue. There should have been a fence back there when this building was first built in 1996, and especially when the trail was put in back. So I think it's really long overdue, even though it's maybe not as secure as we would like. I think it's long overdue, and I'm real happy it's $40,000 under budget as well.
Yeah, it's just that there is a very attractive, non-scalable fence that police departments are using. Because the portable stuff, which there is still a long way down the road from getting purchased by JLEC.
right.
If ever. The temporary, or the portable stuff, I'm sorry, the permanent fencing they put in, and again, I just looked at it a couple weeks ago down at Columbia Heights. It's a very attractive 6-foot fence. It's vertical slats that, with this kind of, this
Angled back.
tip out on the top, and it isn't scalable. So I guess I would just be curious to know if we had a price for that, with that incorporated in the areas where there is access for the public.
Mr. Mayor, we didn't price that out because that's not what the scope was when we developed the budget.
Okay.
It would be more than the $175,000 that was put in the budget, but that's what was in scope, so therefore that's not what we budgeted for. If it's council's desire to go that route and find out what it is, then we just hold on this, carry those funds forward, and put it back in the 2024 budget and combine the funds with whatever that is. But I guess
Okay.
that's for you to decide.
Yeah, I don't know what council wants to do. I think I would rather kick it out to 2024 and have a more comprehensive look at the fence, but
Mr. Mayor?
I'll leave it up to you folks. Councilmember Griscoviac?
Mr. Himmer, if we went forward with this 8-foot model chain link fence, is there any way that it could, a topper being put on it that would give that additional deterrence? I'm thinking of the fencing that's around the sheriff's station. It's attractive and it is very secure.
Was that barbed wire on the top or something? or-
I don't know what it is, but you said it's angled back, so if you climb up it, you kind of have to climb.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Sure they have. Councilmember Geisler?
Yeah, Mr. Himmer, I think that the couple of questions that I have is, what is the length of time that we have to make a decision on the bid? And then how much time would it take to get a estimate of that different type of fencing? So with that, I was wondering, would it make sense, or would we have time to table this and then have more information come back to us at a subsequent meeting where we would be able to make that true decision? Okay, are we going to, go forward with this, or are we going to truly stop it? Because what I would not want to do is kind of toss all these bids out and have to start everything over if we don't have to, and if that ends up being a decision that we do decide to go this route.
I'm checking right now, Councilmember Geisler. Typically, it's a 60-day window
Okay.
that they are good for. I just wanted to confirm that that was the case.
However, Mayor Council, this wasn't actually bid like you would typically see a street project.
Okay.
These were, I believe, quotes direct from the
Correct.
vendor. So the timelines are just a little different. I think there's maybe some period within those quotations that were provided by the companies to say that, well, this is only good for 30 days, 60 days, but you just need to get updated in case the prices for the materials or something else, labor increase, that they'd say, well, that's too old, I have to give you a new quote. So that being the case, if council's interested in staff answering some of those questions, I think you could table it, we could bring it back, probably get some information to you in a couple of weeks on what that is. The only risk would be, if we wait a month or two, those quotes might be bad, they might have to update them, it would only go up a little bit, I imagine, from if we went back to the same product that we're talking about here. But Tim, I just...
And I don't see that there are any qualifications on their bids. Usually they're 30 days, 60 days, but if we just received them and we could be back in front of you on the 15th,
Right.
if that's the desire, I guess what I'm hearing is, what's a non-scalable fence cost for something similar? Or is there additions at a future date that we could modify this existing fence to make it a little more secure? Is there anything else?
Yeah. No, that really is it for me, because I think most of that area, it's already impeded by woods. People are not going to be trying to come through the woods, but, if it's an open area, I would just as soon have the non-scalable,
Your Honor,
or at least look at it. Councilmember Novak?
move to table until the 15th.
Second?
Motion by Novak, second by Geisler to table. There's no discussion, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. It doesn't mean you can't ask a question, though, Mr. Stemwittle.
No, Mayor Council, it's okay, it's passed. I was just going to suggest perhaps not putting a specific date on it, but we'll bring it back on the 15th, and we may have to table it again or something.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine.
Yeah, I was just going to double check to make sure that, staff has enough time to do the due diligence that they need, so.
If we have to take it off and put it back on, we can
That's
do
fine.
that.
Yeah, not-
Exactly,
yeah.
yep.
All right. First item under new business, now that we have two things under new business, I think. To consider planning case 23-15, consider preliminary and final plat Rapids Industrial LLC. Mr. Crowell, do you have a little dog and pony show for us?
Yeah, I just, I can cover some of the quick items. It's not a real extensive staff report, but thought it was kind of helpful on the plats of just to kind of have an image up on the screen kind of while I'm talking, if that's helpful. So yeah, we have a preliminary and final plat here related to kind of three parcels that I have highlighted there on the map. So it's kind of the current site where the former Berry Plastics and now Larson Manufacturing is in that site, and it's currently zoned industrial. And the preliminary and final plat tonight is to kind of replat kind of three existing lots into one lot and then two outlots that would be kind of sold by the current owners for some future development. So typically we see plats kind of in coordination with some site plan or new development. In this case, it's really just the plat to help them prepare land for future sale. So you can see here the kind of existing property line actually goes right through the middle of the Larson Manufacturing building. And so it's really to create one new lot that would encompass all of Larson Manufacturing and then creating two outlots for that future development. I mentioned there isn't a formal development proposal at this time. We have gotten some indication as planning staff that Tenaska was looking at a battery storage facility potentially on Outlot A, and that's actually going to be brought forth to a work session with the Planning Commission in September as they're doing some due diligence on the site and in trying to look at feasibility there. So that could be a potential project, but at this time there's not a formal application in place. For lot, I guess the total area here is about 24 acres. That lot one that would then now encompass the existing Larson Manufacturing building is just a little over 4.5 acres and does comply with all of our dimensional requirements in the industrial zoning district. Outlot A is basically kind of the remainder of that area and is about 16.5 acres. And then on this map, this was some initial kind of wetland delineation of the site. So there's maybe about 9 acres or so of wetlands kind of on that site that could impact some of the future development or where that's located. And then finally, the Outlot B is kind of this smaller parcel here, and it's about 1/2 acre. So it's kind of a legal non-conforming industrial lot. I think the hope is eventually there could be a sale of the lot kind of across the street, and our city engineers indicated there's no utilities underneath that new roadway that was built kind of with the Foley overpass project, and we could actually vacate that right of way and then maybe eventually kind of combine these two parcels into a larger parcel 4 development. I think those are all kind of the main highlights. So happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, our staff recommendation tonight's approve that preliminary plat and then adopt the resolution to grant final plat approval.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Crowell?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
The only question I have is we've seen these before where we replat and everything like that, but it's just a little bit unique that we're replotting for just this one section and we're leaving that huge big Outlot A with no development plans. Is there a reason why we're doing this in 2 steps? Isn't that just more costly and more red tape for everybody?
Yeah, that was kind of working with the applicant. This was their preference, was to really just have this plat in place. Makes it a little easier on them to be able to kind of market these sites and sell them. And then whoever would end up purchasing this site in the future, if we ever wanted to grant a building permit, we can't do that on an outlot. So they would come back and kind of replat it, and it'd probably likely be at the cost of that new owner with the development. They'll have to pay the cost to replat this again. So it's kind of the preference of the applicant, but yeah, it's a little unique in that we
Okay.
don't always kind of follow this process.
Yeah, that was the only clarification I was looking for.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Mr. Crowell, do we still have some cleanup to do there to the east, where it looks like Norway Street cuts through the parcel next door?
Kind of on this, or you're talking about on the
Yeah,
lots over
right, right next to
here?
Outlot B down there. It just seems like the next parcel cuts right across. I'm just curious if we had some other cleanup to do in that area there for Norway
Sure.
Street.
Yeah, I guess I'm not aware. I don't know if Tim, through some of the overpass project, if you had any additional information.
Property to the east of Outlot B or to the north and east of Outlot B is actually the daycare property.
Head Start.
What's shown as right-of-way here was what was dedicated by that landowner for the construction of Norway Street as part of that project. That was part of an agreement whereby they dedicate the right-of-way, we extend utilities, and they pay those costs as well. So they didn't pay the assessment for the new road, they dedicated the right-of-way for it, and that's how it was dedicated.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Crowell, on this particular property? Rapids Industrial LLC.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
In planning case 2315, I recommend, or make a motion to approve the preliminary plat and adopt resolution 23-78 granting final plat approval with the following condition of all Anoka County comments be addressed.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Griskoviac. Is there further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thanks, everyone.
And we're on to our new item 7A, which was formerly item 2. Adopt resolution 23-79, accepting the 2023 grant for a full-time auto theft investigator. Mr. Steiner, Chief Steiner.
Mayor and Council, the City of Coon Rapids was awarded a grant for the Minnesota Department of Commerce for this dedicated auto theft investigator position. The grant will be authorized from July 1st. We got a little bit of a late start on it due to some hangups at the state, and then we couldn't get it on the agenda in time for the last meeting. But nonetheless, it would run from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2026 at a total of $309,000 for salary, benefits, and training. It'd have to be subsidized by the city's general fund to an estimated amount of $180,000 over the 3-year grant period. And of note, I guess, or of importance is we've been operating under this grant for the last 2 years, from 2021 to what expired just June 30th. So it is just a continuation of the grant. And then also of note is the number probably gets your attention at $180,000 over 3 years. And that is the amount for the auto theft investigator that's actually occupying that role, which is a kind of a senior member of the police department at top pay and whatnot. What's important and probably a more accurate reflection of the impact that it has financially is this is going to allow us to maintain our 71st officer, which comes in at an entry level, and that number ranges, depending upon years of experience that they come to us from like 108,000 to 140, and that subsidy range or subsidized amount would range, depending upon the person, 7,900 to 40,000 instead of that 60,000 annually. And I can tell you that the hiring process that we have right now, we have multiple candidates that would fill that 71st role at the entry level wage. So I don't know if that helps or.
Good to know. All right. Anybody have any questions of Chief Steiner on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griskoviac?
Yeah, appreciate you taking this off the consent agenda and putting it just on a regular agenda, just because I think it's a pretty big deal for Coon Rapids. It's a sizable grant from the state of Minnesota, the Department of Commerce, and authorizing our police force to be at 71. So I thought it was a good thing to have a little bit of a discussion on it. How many years have we had this grant? Is this our second iteration or third?
It's the second.
Okay.
We've completed 2 full years.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to have a little bit And I know that you provided us, or at least me and maybe some other council members, some of the results that we've had from this position, where auto theft is a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal, and we've been able to lower auto theft rates in Coon Rapids. We're essentially catching the bad guys with this position, so I certainly support it. I also, on the fiscal note of it, the $60,000 a year or so that the city of Coon Rapids has to pay for this, I think it's a wise investment for us. We're getting bad guys off the streets, we're lowering crime rates in the city, and by doing so, especially theft, lowering car thefts in the city. My cousin happens to be an insurance agent, and all of us, we get rated on our insurance with the city that we live. How many cars are stolen in your community? It affects the amount of premiums that you pay. So by lowering that, we keep Coon Rapids as a safe community in the eyes of the insurance community, so it actually pays us back in the long run. So with all that, I support keeping our sworn officer force at 71 and accepting this grant.
That was so close to sound like a motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac.
I would like a motion to approve Resolution 23-79, authorizing a 2023 agreement with the Minnesota Commerce Department accepting a grant to fund a full-time auto theft investigator through June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, motion by Griscoviac. I'm sorry, I was thinking about that race for second, and I'm going to give it to Novak.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Griscoviac, second by Novak. Is there further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are up to the open mic public comment portion of the meeting. And if you are here to address council under open mic provides an opportunity for the public to address the city council on subjects that are not part of the regular meeting agenda. The public is invited to express any concerns they may have which are relevant to the affairs, policies, or practices of the city of Coon Rapids, and remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. Should you wish to participate, please approach the podium and state your name and address before addressing the council. All remarks will be made from the podium and addressed to the council as a whole. Open mic is not a time for problem solving or reacting to the comments made, but for hearing the speaker for informational purposes only. Questions from council will be for clarification only, and if necessary, a staff report will be prepared for the next regular council meeting with a copy forwarded to the speaker. So whoever would like to address council for open mic, please address the podium, state your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes. And I don't start the 3 minutes until after you give us your name and address, so.
I printed off a very, very brief article and also a picture that goes along with it. If I allowed, I'd like to pass it on.
So you can actually give those to the city clerk and she can distribute those to us, because we're going to be listening to you and not reading those right now.
Eric Madison. I live at 12373 Eilick Street in Coon Rapids. Good evening, everyone. I've been a resident of Coon Rapids for 2 years now and a resident of Anoka County for most of my whole life. I've had the joy of accessing Bunker Hills Regional Park throughout my life. It's a rare gem and a prized asset for our community. It's not just a great place for people to enjoy the outdoors, but also a rare sliver of habitat for our wildlife that we share this land with. Habitat that is constantly shrinking all the time due to human encroachment. In June, my wife Amy addressed the city council, raising issues and voicing the concerns of many residents here in Coon Rapids and the surrounding areas as well. We've formed a group called the Friends of Coon Rapids Wildlife. We are a group committed to protecting all wildlife that inhabit Coon Rapids and for finding more humane methods of coexisting with all living things in our city. Our numbers are growing and we are becoming more and more organized and plan to continue to raise concerns and express our dissatisfaction with the city's goose removal policy. I would like to ask that I would like to ask the council that if the Friends of Coon Rapids Wildlife were to fundraise enough money to purchase a tow and collect sweeper system, which is what that article is about, if the city would adopt a policy to use that system for cleaning up after geese, and not only at Bunker Hills, but other city parks as well. To me, the current policy of allowing the geese to lay the eggs, hatch them out, only to round them up and feed them to wolves is barbaric and completely unnecessary. Why can't we simply collect the eggs or oil them or any other method to prevent them from hatching? Then there won't be these geese born there to return again the following year. And I would be more than happy to organize some kind of a meat drive or something and collect people's freezer burnt meat or expired meat and bring it up to the wolf sanctuary to make up for anything that they might miss out on by not getting these geese from Coon Rapids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Kimball. I live at 2312 121st Circle Northwest in Coon Rapids. And I'm here to speak against the Lions to Coon Creek Trail, which runs from Lions Park and then right behind my property, not far from my back door and windows. So I've just got a few points I'd like to make, and then I'll stand if there's any questions or comments. Number one, this trail really won't be maintainable because it will be built on soft muck. And I know because I've walked back there, and even just me, I sink into the muck. It's an area that floods, and it will cost taxpayers millions over time to just keep repairing it over and over. And our streets can't even be maintained in our neighborhood, and they're on an dry upland, and there's holes in them, and there's gravel and everything like that, and we would like those maintained before winter. There are many animals in the area, and that trail corridor, the proposed corridor, is also a nature corridor. We get all kinds of mammals and birds and insects, amphibians and fish that use that exact area. They will be scared away by trail users, and this includes eagles and eaglets that use the area as a feeding ground. And the trail will be close to our homes so as to constitute a safety and security concern. It's really only seconds from the trail to our back door and gone. And it won't be patrollable because it's dark back there. There's no lighting or anything like that. And any car that goes back there is risking actually going into the detention basin if they just go off the trail just a little bit. There isn't really a lot of room back there. Let's see, we would need high fencing, lighting, and sensors at the city's cost to feel safe and secure. And I'm just wondering how many of you would want such a trail close to your house? No hands? Nobody. So, over the years, the trail has been shown in other alignments. Other safer options are now available at much less cost. Just one would be to take the trail up to the lights at Hanson and Main, and then cross there, and then take either side of the road over to the lights at Lowe's and cross to the trail going north from there. That would be inexpensive, it'd be much safer, and it wouldn't ruin the natural area that we loved when we moved into that area. I've asked for information on previous plans under the public information laws recently and have received nothing at all. I believe this is illegal and there should be some sort of an investigation. Previously, I've had talks with Councilmember Griskoyak. Sorry, Brad. Sorry about that. And the city engineer, Mr. Himmer, and they were both nice enough to come up to my house to listen to concerns. So I just want to thank them for that. The trail will become a source of people that are coming up into our yards where there are children and pets, as well as other just items we own. There will likely be damage to the slopes in our yards. There's a slope right along our yards that goes down into the marsh area in our backyards. So people coming back from school or from anywhere can just easily cross into our yards and wear out the slopes. I believe the city has purchased a home near ours for a small piece of easement to make the trail actually possible, and I heard it was in the amount of $500,000. This, I believe, is gross fiscal mismanagement. And again, we were not informed. I don't believe the sellers wanted the trail at the back of their lot either, so the city basically was forced to buy them out. If the city can afford to buy their, no, please, go ahead.
We're at 4 minutes. I was just.
Pardon?
We're at 4 minutes, so I was just curious if you're close.
Yes, I'm close. So I figure if the city can afford to buy their house, they can afford to buy ours, and including relocation expenses. I've emailed with the city on this back and forth multiple times. Another safety issue is the marsh has burned in the past, and someone can get trapped by fire out on the trail. Let's see. And most of us living along this proposed alignment have not been aware of us. I mean, we moved in after this plan took place. There'll also be maintenance involved, budgeting for that will be needed. I don't know if that's been done or not, but it'll be necessary. So in summary, this plan is ill-advised for safety, security, environmental, and property reasons, and we should go back to planning that includes all the current residents along the proposed alignment that live near the trail. Let's see. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball.
If there's any questions, I'll stand for questions. If not, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
McNally, my address is 11840 Grove Street in Coon Rapids. And I live behind the Lions Club Park, and it's a beautiful park, and the kids love to go and play there. I have 15 grandchildren, 14 of them are active and running around. And when we go to the park, it's really difficult to watch because there's so many different entrances and exits at that park. So I was just wondering if, I don't even know if this is the right venue, but it would be possible to put like a chain link fence around there and with just one entrance so that people can, parents can monitor their kids, because I'm telling you, I've been panicked and running around looking for this one or that one at that park. And it's just because of the way that the playground is set up that you can't view everybody at every spot. So, and then kind of a side note, do you have any idea of like when roads get repaired? Because there's a stretch of 129th Avenue between Silver Rod and Round Lake Boulevard. And it's so bad with potholes that right now there are 2 tires that are there to keep people from falling in with their cars. So just brought it to your attention. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Kayla Champagne. It's sham like shampoo and pine like the pine tree. I live at 650 East Garfield Street in Anoka. I hope that's okay. My colleague mentioned the Friends of a Coon Rapids Wildlife Group, so I'm also kind of participating with them. And I have an interest in the area that I'm going to be talking to you guys about because I spend a lot of time there. So, today I am here to shed light on a pressing issue that deeply concerns us all: the distressing treatment of geese and goslings at Bunker Hill Golf Course. And I feel that it's time for us to reflect on our relationship with nature and strive for a more compassionate and sustainable approach. The current roundup exercises and lethal methods taken to control geese populations are not only inhumane, but they're largely ineffective. The practices merely free up prime real estate for more geese to move in, perpetuating the problem. However, research from reputable sources, such as the Humane Society of the United States and the American Veterinary Medical Association, have shown that the most effective way to address conflict with geese is through a multi-pronged approach that emphasizes non-lethal methods to humanely dissuade the goose population from wanting to live at the course in the first place. Thankfully, numerous humane, effective, and non-lethal options are available. Hazing techniques, such as employing trained herding dogs or remote-controlled alternatives, habitat modification, and using non-lethal deterrents like laser lights, can all work together to promote geese seeking more suitable habitat without resorting to harmful practices. I've personally volunteered in wildlife rehabilitation, and I've witnessed the resilience and beauty of these creatures, and I feel that they deserve our empathy and our protection and our good humor and not our malice. As we ponder our actions, we must question, we decided to prioritize convenience and leisure activities over respecting the coexistence of all living beings. As children, we were taught the value of sharing. So when did we stop applying this principle to the natural world? Let us remember that harmonious coexistence with nature is the path to a more balanced and prosperous future for us all. In conclusion, I respectfully urge you, esteemed members of the City Council, to reconsider the current approach towards geese management at the golf course. Together, we can embrace a narrative of compassion, science-based decision-making, and sustainability. And by doing this, we can ensure the well-being of these geese and goslings while preserving the natural balance of our environment. So, thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Amy. My address is 12373 Ilex Street Northwest here in Coon Rapids. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Recently, the city of Coon Rapids has reintroduced Rocky the raccoon. He's been making the public rounds and meeting the kids. Everybody loves a cute, adorable animal. We love to use animals, but ultimately we treat them like they are disposable. Rocky was at Sand Creek, which is a site that is approved for lethal geese removal. Hopefully Rocky gets better treatment than the geese. Most of the geese that are being killed are goslings, and they're coming from rocket turf. In 2020, 78 goslings were taken from rocket turf, and 18 goslings were taken from Bunker Hills. The year after, it was 54 goslings from rocket turf and 8 from Bunker Hills. In 2022, the city paid $1,665 to have 11 geese trapped and killed. How many have been trapped in 2023? These beautiful geese are being known for being very involved parents. Their last day of life consisted of being rounded up, not knowing what was going to happen, not being able to fly, being separated from their young and sent to die, likely in a gas chamber. Their babies are kept longer so they can be fattened up before they're killed. It is possible that the geese, the goslings that were rounded up in June from Bunker, are still alive as they're continuing to grow before they kill them. And next year, more geese will just move into this perfect habitat only to be killed again. If there is a concern about the mess from the geese, doesn't it make more sense not to let the eggs even hatch and prevent the geese from wanting to make their home in these places? We should look to cities like Rochester, who moved away from lethal options and have started using volunteers to help manage their geese populations with egg oiling and egg replacement. There are other techniques that can be incorporated, such as specially trained dogs, lights, and habitat modification. Often you need to use these in conjunction. I cannot prevent the death of these geese, but you can. So again, I ask you to consider more humane and passionate methods. Thank you.
Anybody else here to address City Council for the open mic portion of the meeting?
Good evening. I'm John Leggett. I live at 12124 Cottonwood Street, Northwest in Coon Rapids. And our North Star Alliance operates the concession stands at Sand Creek. Much of my time there is spent at the order window taking orders. It is the only common place where the participants and the spectators come to offer their comments and complaints to me a lot of the time. The people at these tournaments come from all over the area, the 5-state area especially, and there's one big tournament we do, they come from all over the United States, the military tournament next month. They consistently tell us Sand Creek Park is one of the best ball fields to play in the area. They also tell us our food is good and not very expensive. This past week, we held a tournament that consisted of over 110 women's softball players. And that's our biggest complaint is from them, the restrooms. It's unbelievable the complaints we get on the restroom. They usually start about noon because it's out of toilet paper in the bathroom, the containers are full, and it's a mess in there. Usually by noon that's happening. What we find is we can't deal with it because we're dealing with food. That's out of toilet paper, paper towels on the floor, Fenneman products are the biggest item. Those containers get full and it's a mess. This past one, a couple of us come in Sunday morning very early to check it out because when we left, the bathrooms were filthy. And we went in there and we took out between the bathroom, the woman's bathroom, there's 3 large bags of trash we took out of there. And in the building itself, the warming house, we took another 2-3 bags out of there of the garbage overflowing. What I hope we could do is set up something where we get more time of the people up there doing it. They usually come in the morning and clean it, and at night they clean it, and those big tournaments, the middle of the day, it's terrible. And I just think there's a way to either, I don't know if you pay overtime or try and find people to work different hours or something. I was physically ashamed to listen to these comments. This is a beautiful city with a beautiful park, and letting that happen, what goes down the street is your restrooms are dirty. All I'm looking for is a little bit of help trying to keep it clean. Thank you.
Mr. Leggett, and as a clarification, because you're dealing with the food, the health department won't even let you technically
We're
clean
not
those.
supposed to go in that thing at all other than for our own personal use, but to clean it, they tell us they'll shut us down in a heartbeat if they ever found out we do.
Okay.
But Sunday morning, we could not let that place be like that. The games, we were there at 5:30, if I remember right. The games start at 8. Then the girls are there usually about 7:30 playing, and they go until 8 o'clock at night. It's not a short day there. And I don't know how to say this without being improper, but there's a lot of difference between men and women. And the bathrooms are a big part of it.
Sure.
The men tournaments or the couples tournaments, we don't get it at all. But I think it's very disrespectful to the ladies and stuff like that to be in that mess.
Thank you, Mr. Leggett.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the work you guys do out there, too. Anybody else here for open mic this evening? Anybody else here for open mic? All right, we're going to close that portion of the meeting and move to previous open mic reports. And for which I believe I have 2. Yep. First one is an open mic response for Mr. Zachary Arco, 12XX Madison Street, Northeast Blaine. He was concerned about the non-commercial sign code regulations. Basically, we've got an election and they can't use campaign signs. So the staff discussed Mr. Arco's request and determined that as the city's code reads now, candidates are allowed to place 1 sign per residential parcel that does not exceed 8 square feet in size, and 1 sign per commercial parcel that does not exceed 32 square feet in size. This means that the candidates are able to place signs now for the upcoming school district election. In light of the timing required for further research and consideration of possible unintended consequences surrounding a possible code amendment related to non-commercial signs in non-election years, and since the candidates are allowed signage under the current regulations, staff recommendation is for no action on this matter at this time, and hopefully that satisfies him. And then we have an open mic response regarding a group home on 123rd Avenue. And The home is licensed through the Minnesota Department of Health. In addition, the home is has a currently valid rental license with the city. Group homes are allowed to operate in residential neighborhoods provided they are properly licensed and maintain 6 or fewer residents at the location. Staff is going to follow up with the property management company, the Department of Health, and the neighbors who shared their concerns to have conversations about the issues that were raised. Additionally, anyone with concerns related to behaviors of residents or disturbances within the neighborhood can reach out to the Minnesota Department of Health at 651-201-4200 or can go to the website at www.health.state.mn.us to register a complaint. And this is for informational purposes, and no further action is recommended at this time. And we are up to other business. And it's like deja vu this year. Coon Rapids Andover Little League 12-year-old. A huge congratulations to the Coon Rapids Andover Little League 12-year-old All-Stars who over the weekend won the state championship title. They left from Coon Rapids today, bound for the Little League Baseball Midwest Region Tournament in Whitestown, Indiana. Their games will be on ESPN+, and their first game will be this Friday afternoon, August 4th, against Nebraska at 3 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and we wish them all the best in Indy. And you didn't have to go this year.
I did not.
So, other business to come before council?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave the big one last night to the end. So just a few notes. Tomorrow night at the Coon Rapids Dam is the last concert, the summer concert series, the last concert. So that's Revolution 5. It's a Beatles tribute. And our Boy Scouts and our Lions will be at there if you want to have food for purchase. So we appreciate their participation and support. But yeah, the summer concert series is wonderful, and so your last opportunity is tomorrow night.
And if you want to get there for food, get there early. The Lions and the Boy Scouts are there at 5:30, and the music starts at 7. And if you wait until 7, you're not going to get walking tacos, for example. They're going to be out of a few things. But the Boy Scouts will still be there selling for the rest of the night. They're nodding. All right. Other business to come before council.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if, first, congratulations to Chief Steiner. I don't know is this our first official meeting with?
It is.
It is. So, maybe we can say hello a little bit and then talk a little bit about Night to Unite last night. I was at a few parties and it seemed like, well, those that started at 5 got a little wet. So if you were starting at 6:30, you were a little better off. But the police department and the fire department were out visiting all of the parties, and so if you have any update from last night, that would be great.
Sure.
Chief Steiner.
Mayor and council, well, it was a great time, first and foremost. The night went off without a hitch. We did get a little rain scare for a bit, which drove people inside, but just like the citizens kind of regrouped and enjoyed a beautiful night, we also did, and I think we got to all the parties and went back and rechecked to make sure we didn't miss any. We had, I think the official number was 93 organized events, but some of the officers, when they came back, said they stumbled across unorganized events or so people just kind of did their own thing and took advantage of the night. And so I don't know how many of those there were, but there certainly were some. And an event like this obviously doesn't go off without a lot of work, and a lot of people helped, but I'd feel bad if I didn't mention our community outreach officer, Tim Morin, and the amount of work that he put into this. This was his first Night to Unite, and he knocked it out of the park. And when I got back at the end of the night, I asked other people, because I don't know how many times I've done Night to Unites, but I felt like everybody was in an exceptionally good mood. And usually there's a few that, bend your ear about stuff that maybe, but it's rare. And last night, and I had the privilege of squiring Mr. Carlson around for the evening, and we just had a lot of great engagement and a lot of happy people and a lot of supportive people, and it was felt by all the officers. It was just a great night, so we really appreciate it. We look forward to it every year, and this was just an overall great event again.
Councilman Carlson is such a jovial character. Who's gonna be angry at you? You know?
And I don't know if you know, but he knows a lot of people.
He knows everybody. He knows everybody.
That's true, too.
So, and then, Mr. Mayor, another one. So this Saturday is the Love Your Neighbor event that is sponsored by Transformative Circle, a group within the community. And they have had it, you know, on Night to Unite nights or right before, but it's at the Coon Rapids Soccer Complex on Saturday from noon until 5. And it is a big community gathering. There's going to be song and dance and food and all kinds of fun things for people to do. So that's another, if you missed Night to Unite last night, you could go to the soccer complex on Saturday, noon to 5.
Night to Night is such a tremendous night, such a community builder. It's such a great way to get to know your neighbors. I went out with fire, and it's always fun to see the kids light up when the fire trucks pull in, you know. But we got late to our last event, and we pulled up, and she was packing up in the driveway, and we went, oh, we missed it. And so we started to talk to her through the window, and we were going to just leave the hats and things there. And I looked up and I went, oh no, we're on. All these kids were running down the street at the truck. It was so funny. I wish I would have gotten a picture or even a video. The dad got there and he goes, all I got to say was, oh, the fire. He said they were gone. But no, it was a great time, and it was really fun to see everybody out.
I would agree with that, Mr. Mayor. I would compliment police and fire both for all the rounds that they did. They just really engaged with the citizens of Coon Rapids, showing off the fire trucks, giving tours of the fire trucks, the police officers, you know, right in everyone's yard and mingling with residents. It was a spectacular night. I wanted to just thank both police and fire for everything they did last night.
Yeah, and there's such a good-hearted banter between the police and the fire anyway, so you know, when you're at the events together, it's even better. I have a picture of our battalion chief with a junior police badge on. So. Mr. Samweddle?
Mayor, Councilmember Geisler mentioned it, but I did want to make note of Captain Steiner now becoming Chief Steiner. Official announcement was made on Friday publicly. Bill has served in this role for a few months as the acting, but was appointed officially effective August 1st. And so, yes, this is his first council meeting, so I wanted to recognize him and congratulate him in stepping into this new position. We look forward to working with him in this new capacity.
Any other business to come before council this evening? I think these scouts would like to go home.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Novak, was that a second?
It's a second.
All right, to adjourn, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.